Good morning or good afternoon, depending what time zone you're in. We're here, Liquidated, episode 5. Today we're going to have Pwnlord on, who's going to be a recurring guest on the show, and also Mr. Ponzi Trader, who's an excellent trader, a young kid in his 20s, to get some perspectives on what's it like to be a trader in that life, in that world, in that environment. Been a pretty interesting week this week in the markets. There's some euphoria. So look forward to hearing from what these two gentlemen have to say.
What's up, fellas?
Is this your new office?
I got boxes everywhere still, so
yeah, it's been a nightmare.
I need to unpack everything.
So this is the 5th episode of Liquidated. I wanted to start this kind of podcast to get perspectives from people all over the world that are in crypto. And, we've been friends for quite some time, and we've, been a part of the Sweethearts community and met a bunch of interesting people from around the world. But I thought it'd be good and productive to get your story and get your ideas of the market and why you got into crypto and all of those things, why we have the time to do that. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. And Pone, thank you as well. I guess this is your second time on here, or are you co-hosting with him, Pone?
I don't know. It's my second time on here, but I think I'm going to be helping out with some like market stuff, maybe, or some like meme coin stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we'll probably figure it out as we go. I mean, it just depends on the flow of things, and I think everyone provides like an interesting perspective, whether it's on-chain stuff or trading or just general advice regarding the crypto market or stocks or whatever. But so can you give like the people like a little bit of origin story for you, like how you got into crypto? Do you think it was related to like kind of who you are as an individual, or just to kind of work well with that lifestyle?
Yeah. So a little context. I always wanted to trade stocks when I was little, but my dad didn't believe in stocks, thought it was gambling. And I wasn't 18, so I couldn't open a stock brokerage. And at the time I was also selling weed and getting into the internet. I spent a lot of time on the internet. So naturally, I found crypto pretty early. I found Bitcoin specifically through Alphabet, which is, oh, fuck, I have to take this one call. Give me 60 seconds. Distract him, Pone.
All right. I'll jump in, I guess. It's actually funny. Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. Like, it's funny that he says Alphabet. I mean, my first experience getting into crypto was I was doing like powerlifting. This is back in probably 2016, like late 2016. And I was ordering steroids on the internet, but at the time, like I was doing all of it was like through MoneyGram and like Western Union. And one day I walked into this like grocery store that I had been, doing all of it through or whatever. And I was always sending money to like Ukraine, which is like ironic now, but that's where that's where they told me to send the money, was like Ukraine. And so finally, one day, I guess I got flagged or whatever, and they were just like, "Hey, like, what is this? Like, why are you sending money to Ukraine?" And I was like, "It's for my friend. It's like for my friend that lives in Ukraine." And they were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna let you do that." And I got so upset, dude. I was like, "This is my money. This is my money. You're gonna tell me where I can send it?" I was like, "My friend in Ukraine is struggling. He needs this money. You're fucking my shit up." And they were just like, no, like no more sending money to Ukraine. So I was like, all right. I'm going over to MoneyGram. Like, I'll take my business to MoneyGram, which is, dude, I'm sending like maybe like $120. And so
yeah,
I went over there. They were even stricter. They just told me to like fuck off. So from there, I found Bitcoin, because I was like, what you had to, you had to send it to buy everything. And so that was my first experience with it. I think Bitcoin was like $600 around then. So, and of course me, not realizing what was going on and being like, yo, this thing like only goes up. I should probably just like buy a bunch of it and hold it. I was like, dude, my drugs are free now. Like, cause every time it would go up, like I would have to send like less Bitcoin, And so I was just like, bro, I was like, this is like, I just figured out this like universe hack where
It's a life
the price
hack.
just goes up. I never have to buy any more of this Bitcoin, and I can just get like, you know, everything I need like for free. And then of course, like eventually, you know, when it went from like $600, I think, to like, I don't know, like 5,000, I was like, huh. I was like, I should probably like buy some of this stuff, like just to hold
Just
it.
hold it.
But yeah, that was my first experience. But Ponzi, let's hear what you got.
All right, I'm back. Sorry, guys. I still work a job, so I have to take calls about airplanes every once in a while. So anyways, get into the dark web, exploring the realm. Hear about Bitcoin. It was, I think, around $100. I can't remember. Didn't end up really buying much outside of trying to get drugs, so I did get a little bit of exposure, and then went dark. Totally forgot about it. Going into college. Oh my god, my guard gate.
Dude's acting like he's never been before.
So I'm in college, or I just start college. I think it's my very first summer freshman. Like the you do the summer before the actual start, and I had just turned 18. And my brother calls me. Actually, my brother calls me in January. He's like, "Yo, that Bitcoin stuff that we were trying to buy drugs with, it's $800." And I was like, "Cool." Dropped it. Calls me back in August or July, and he's like, "Dude, it's $1,200." And I was like, "All right, well, clearly there's something here. So what do I have to do?" And I actually like went to him for advice because he was at U Miami, and he had a bunch of rich friends who were like, all getting into crypto. So they kind of advised me, like, "Yo, you need to make a Twitter. This is where the finance discussions happen. You know, you need a Coinbase account." So then I bought my first coins, which were OMG. And then I realized that there was Bittrex. So I sent it over to Bittrex. And over the next 3 months, what became the bull market of 2017, I turned the $2,000 I had into like almost $100,000. And then come January, I'm calling my dad. I'll never forget. And I'm saying, "Dad, I'm buying a Lamborghini in September on my birthday. When I turn 18 or 19, I'm buying a Lamborghini. I'll have all the money. I just made 50, 70, 80 grand in a few months." And then sure enough, I fucking lose it all at the 2018 spring. But then I was super hooked, and I got into perpetuals.
What was the I told you so call from your dad?
Dude, the worst part was he was like, as I'm telling him that I'm gonna buy a Lamborghini someday in the next coming months from the amount of money I made, he was like, "Sell it all." And I'm like, "Absolutely not. This just started. You know, it's first bull market." I'm like, "This is just the beginning." And sure enough, I fucking lose it all, and I still have my job back then, so I just kept working. But I was super hooked. I was just like, you know, I just dedicated these last few months to this. I want to know more. You know, what did I do wrong? Where the space isn't going anywhere? You know, what can I learn? So I was just all in at that point. I was spending so much time on the internet already from video games that I kind of just transitioned the video gaming into, you know, diving into the space. And then I ended up making a BitMEX account, learning about perpetuals, lost so many BTCs to perpetuals on Arthur Hayes's dime. And then, you know, it kind of developed from there. It's just like, it's inevitable if you spend so much time doing something that you either end up crafting something that you have an edge with, or you just, you know, develop psychosis and have to become a bottom feeder. And, you know, sure enough, just more and more time into the space helped me learn that there was a way to make money, and I just had to not lose it all 4 times in a row.
And how did you humble yourself, like, to make those transitions, like to learn from mistakes? And because it's very hard with people's ego, especially in poker or in crypto.
Yeah, to me, I mean, like, dude, the first 3 years, I don't think I made $100,000 until 2019 or 2020, even maybe right before COVID. And so it was like 3 years of just making $5,000, losing 10, making $2,000, you know, but I was just like, there's ways to make money here. And then when I really got into the crypto Twitter realm, and I was seeing the amount of money that people were making, specifically Kobe and Gaines and all these guys, I was like, wow, like, there's some real fucking big fish in this game, and they were probably the same person I was at some point, and so, you know, they made it. And I think the most humbling thing for me was when I borrowed one of my best friends to this day. I borrowed $8,000 from him in college to trade. because I had gotten liquidated and lost everything. And I was like, oh, I'm going to make it back. And I lost the $8,000 on a flight. I literally just instant liquidated. And I was like, wow, I owe people money now. And I've been doing this for 2 years now and I still have nothing. Like, I'm doing something wrong. And that was when I was like, all right, I need to make a change. And that kind of shifted my experience in the space. And then the second most humbling, or actually the most humbling, was when I actually had just met all of you guys and I got liquidated in 2021 for literally everything. I had finally made, I was pretty much like just getting over $1 million liquid net worth, and I was, I don't know, I think I was 23. And
it happened right before the Bahamas, right?
No, it happened right before Bitcoin Miami, or right after Bitcoin Miami, one or the other, 2021. And then I like had so much discipline, and I had all the money I had made, I had like sent to, different accounts and split it up to ledgers so that like I was never on Perps Exchange all at once, because I had made that mistake in the past. And then of course I'm like low on margin on Binance, and I'm like, oh, let me just pull some liquidity from my storage that I've spent the last 5 years building. And sure enough, Bitcoin went from 32 to 28 or some shit. But the real issue was like most alts had the most insane flash crashes, and Sushi was the one that got me. It was from $21 to $2 on Binance, and only Binance. And I had orders from 12 to 8. So in my head, I'm thinking 50% drawdown, I get filled. But it happened to be a 95% drawdown, and it closed above where my orders were. So I got liquidated in the same move and pretty much lost everything. And that was super humbling again. And I was like, wow, I really need to start over after doing this for 4 or 5 years. Like, am I really going to try again? And I tried again and it worked.
It's funny how it seems to happen. Like multiple of our friends have lost it all and got it all back, kind of like on the same time frame, like every couple of years.
Yeah, you're the only one who hasn't. And for those who are watching, Eric is one of the most Chad Bitcoin holders of all time, because he literally just buys and never sells and has amounted an insane Bitcoin portfolio and acts like he's the poorest one in the group, and FOMOs when we make like 100 grand. Like Raw or Pwn or I will make like 100 grand after losing $1 million for 2 weeks. And then Eric will be like, how can I do that? I want to do that. And we're like, dude, shut the fuck up. Biggest Bitcoin stack of all time.
Yeah,
your celebrations seem fun to me.
I get like go ahead.
Let's talk about Edge for a minute. Like, and I know Rob's using like AI agents or AI in general to try to get Edge in the meme market and things like that. But where is your Edge in trading? Where is your Edge with meme coins? Like, how did that work this cycle for you?
Oh, my edge is ever developing. I used to be a really good range trader because I had to develop to 2018, 2019 when we were literally just ranging and down only from that bear market. But my edge has developed into a momentum trader mostly these days. Like for example, the last 5 days have been some of my best trading of the year, and they've really just been developing on finding the inflection point of when we have started to pivot or turnaround, and then just pressing when that momentum starts to unfold. So I'd say that a really good trader is adapting with his edge, because edges evaporate as markets become more efficient. So every single month there's a new inefficiency or a new efficiency in the market that kind of dissipates with an edge. So if you're really good at one thing, I know some of the best traders I used to follow in the past who I would just like fangirl if they followed me. I've had some reach out to me over the last 7 months asking for money because, at one point they were one of the best traders in the world, and their edge just fully dissipated, and they didn't adapt with that edge leaving. So they ended up losing it all. So it's super important. And, a lot of the older guys who traded Wall Street in the pit in the 2000s, 90s, 80s, whatever it was, they lost their edge when everything went electronic. Some of their edge was simply being in the pit and being able to, communicate with their spotters and put in orders from across the pit. And then all of a sudden they get a computer and they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing anymore. It's gone. Like they don't trade anymore. So a lot of this, the same thing happens as everything adapts. I think a lot of perps traders ended up not having the conversion in meme land, and you had a new generation of meme traders come into play that were absolutely crushing it, like pulling 8 figures out of the space. And then all these OG perp traders were like, what am I supposed to do with this? You know? So I think my edge is still in perps. And it also lies in like finding value when shit's really mispriced. The Trump trade that just happened in the last 30 minutes was like a perfect example. Last week I had posted that I was like I'm like fairly certain Trump's not going to let this one go without another hurrah, and today was the perfect example. It took a few days, but you know, now he's hosting a dinner with 250 of the largest holders.
Well, you know what's crazy about that is that news was leaked like 3 days ago.
Yeah, I
Like
saw
that
too.
like 3 days ago, and the price hadn't moved, so I was just like, all right, well, I guess, you know, no one cares or whatever. And then originally it was like a Versal site, right? It was like a landing page with like a login
Yeah.
and password. So maybe people weren't really sure. Maybe it was like LARP, but yeah, that move was crazy today.
Dude, it's really all it takes is like a spotlight announcement like that to make that kind of thing unfold. I didn't see the news 4 days ago, and who knows if I would have just kind of dismissed it if I did see it. But I was lucky enough to be at my computer, and Stoic Savage just like posted the screenshot within 45 seconds of seeing it. And normally when you get a headline like that, you don't have the time to react. I think it pumped immediately 10% on the move, but I was thinking in my head like 10% isn't like enough to justify this low float token that everybody has sold off in the last few. You know, they want a 25, 35, 50% move. And that's kind of what
did it right
happened.
after unlocks too.
Yeah. And then they relocked the tokens. You saw that?
Yeah. So that was not, you know,
Yeah.
out there. So they definitely steamrolled it.
That was a little confluence for me to hold on to the trade for a bit longer, because I was like, oh, they don't want to just like this to be a little fade pump. So
yeah, whoever's like in charge of that's done a really good job with it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
In my
Baron?
opinion, like it was one of the best launches we've had, and then the way that they've handled announcements and stuff like that has been really good.
Yeah.
Who handled the launch?
It's
No
not the
idea.
World Liberty Finance guys, I've been told. I thought it was originally like the same guys running World Liberty Finance, but it's not. So, and it's not Kelsier. So I don't really know.
Whoever it is, just stick to this. You know what I'm saying? Just stick to that one. Don't dilute yourself, man. It's like, you know.
Are you still holding the position of Trump, or you do this as a trade?
I just closed it. Honestly, the moment I saw that the news was 4 days old was when I hit my final clip out. And like, you know, it's like those types of spots that you got blindsided on where you like haven't made money in weeks, and then you're printing salaries in 30 minutes. It's just like, so a lot of edge is also patience, and that's a massive thing. Is there can be fucking 7 months of nothing, and then in 2 days you can make up for those 7 months of sitting out. One of the best traders I know.
This, did you take this Zero trade?
No, I didn't. I saw you post about it in your Telegram. Let me pull up that
it was. It really wasn't my trade. A friend of mine in Tempo, he found it, or someone else found it. Or like,
can you tell me about it? What was the driver?
So it was like maybe like it's still going right now. Like yesterday, someone noticed that the open interest was like twice the actual like market cap of the coin. And so I guess someone deduced that like somebody was like super offsides or super short on it. And then they just started squeezing. And I mean, it's still squeezing right now. It's back at the highs, but that's like a super, you know, dead low, not low float, but just like a dead, illiquid, you know, AI coin with perps everywhere. So it's super easy to move it. But that's an example, right, of like one of those trades where you haven't had it in a while.
One of my favorite trade setups that we had unfold over the last few weeks is when you get all of these scams that end up drawing down 95% in a few weeks because of a market top or whatever. The market makers that normally have those contracts, they have you know, calls that they can exercise at any point. But what they end up doing is they end up reaccumulating positions down in the lows, and you can tell by open interest volume and CVD. So when you start to see some variables that become radical, like funding or an extreme increase in open interest, like people saw for Zero Bro, you can put on some insane trades, because those market makers are going to paint the chart so that they squeeze every last bit of juice that they have under that contract still. So when you have like lulls in the market, like we had in the last 10 days, and then a small base starts to develop, like one of the things I need to set to remind myself is to go on those aggregators like Orion or Velo or Coinalyze, and just go through my watch list and pull up the same indicators, open interest, funding, and just see if there's anything that sits offsides, like is something extreme and why. And then at that point you can develop like a pretty sick trade. So I'm sure that's what your buddy did for Zero Bro. You just saw like open interest was all out, insane. Funding was probably reflecting somebody putting on a massive position in one or the other direction. Yeah, like one of the trades I saw that with was jelly right before the crime on Hyperliquid. Like you could see somebody was doing some weird shit with spot, but I didn't think it was someone that was trying to bankrupt HLP. I thought it was someone that, a market maker that was trying to just run the coin back up. So I put on a long there thinking that, the jelly team is the jelly market maker isn't going to let this thing die. But on the other hand of the trade, it was just some fucking Pyongyang trying to bankrupt HLP. So, but that's a cool too.
Is that what the meme market is right now? Just looking at Edge, like in the market itself, or is it still like group chats, cabal type stuff, or inside?
We don't really have new runners, right, Pwn? Would you say that like the new runners have kind of dissipated to maybe
I would
like
say
20 mil, 50 mil run?
Yeah,
and they die.
I would say right now, it's everyone's kind of just like waiting, right? There's a couple groups that are just like doing a lot of like insider plays, right, where they're buying stuff up and then they're just like endlessly shilling it for a week, and like it can move coins decently, like that troll coin, right? That's the only reason that thing's up is because they got the right people in, and then they're just like relentlessly shilling it for a week straight. But it's not as easy as it was. Coins aren't like spawning super high and continuing super high. It's basically like you either buy the same thing that everyone else is buying, or you just wait, essentially.
Yeah, I haven't been crushing.
I wouldn't call it edge. Like, like you really have like a handful of coins that you can like buy and hold, and it's been like that for a minute now.
What coins are those?
Right now, so I'm not really trading right now. Like I have some bots that I'm running, and there's like some strategies that I've been like dialing in and playing with, and it's just like all automated on Pump Fun, just because that's like easier right now. Like, and it's a little more profitable than trying to just like, it's just really hard. You can't like, it's hard to jam like 10 to 20K into a spot and just not get punished. And I'm not really trying to fire like, I don't know, man. It's just like it's a lot of work.
And so, I don't know about you, but I got punished 2 months ago doing that specifically, just like jamming 1,000 soul in every fucking spot possible. You saw it live in that group chat we have. You saw me just melt down.
I mean, dude, everyone did just because like it worked, and then it's just like overnight like stopped working. A lot of it's group chats, but again, a lot of the group chats like there's like group chats where you're all like hunting for stuff and looking for stuff, and there's group chats where like people are actively just like buying all the supply of like a dead coin, and then being like, oh, this narrative's awesome, dude, like this is like I fucking believe in this is like the coolest. It's like the usual, it's the usual, except for this time it's a little more out in the open and a little more blatant as far as like hey, we're pumping, and it'll probably dump later, but we're gonna give everyone a chance to make some money at least for a few days is kind of what I'm seeing, at least, with a lot of what's going on with memes.
A lot of shit is forced. It's just
very forced.
Like when shit was frothy a few weeks ago or months ago, someone could say a word on national television, and then you have $1 billion runner in like 4 days. Doesn't happen right now. It really is just a sentiment for how frothy and risk averse are people. I gotta step outside for 1 second. I have a maintenance guy here.
Problem. Yeah, I think what we need to see happen in regards to on-chain is people are making decent money on perps right now. That needs to continue. Like that needs to continue at least for a week, ideally, where everyone's making their money on perps. They've got some spending money, And then once that kind of dries up, then a lot of that capital rotates back on chain, but right now people are so desperate to make money, and people are so desperate just to like book a win. And right now perps are offering, the best venue for that. So it's like, why would I try and jam into a spot where I'm at like a disadvantage already, when I can just jam into a chart, that's going up, and I don't, it's a little easier. So
But a lot of
that's
people that
kind of
aren't
where I
good
think we're
traders
at.
will get killed on perps too, or
Well, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, but there are like small periods of time where like even bad traders like myself are able to make a bunch of money like in a short period of time. When you look at a chart and you're like, oh yeah, this is obviously going to go up, and everyone's thinking the same thing, and everyone's buying it, like it's going
yeah,
to go up, and you're going to make some money. So I would say, like, in those events, I think what ends up happening though is like, after all these big, explosive moves happen on these, meme coins or whatever, um, and then people want to juice more out of it, and it starts to go sideways a bit, and then they just get chopped up, because they're hoping for a breakout further, but they're also like, why am I longing up here? This could easily, it's up 50%. It could easily, crater another 30, and then that's when you get people who are like in, out, in, out, in, out. And before you know it, you've churned, everything you made on that move. Um, so, ideally people just catch those moves, and then they're like, all right, cool, I'm taking my money and I'm going, and they withdraw, and then we see some of it come on chain. But that's how it usually goes anyway. We'll have to see how it goes right now.
do you allocate any of your portfolio to stocks at all, or do you play around in that world, or stay away?
No. I mean, a little bit, but not as much as I should, and I think a lot of that just comes from like comfort zone, maybe, like
Mm-hmm.
just being, this is like what I'm comfortable with. This is what I've, been doing for a long time. But I think, I think as I've transitioned to being more and more like a contributing member of society, and like setting up, things outside of crypto, I've started, to allocate more over there, because there's just so much more you can do with it, as far as like collateral and, you
Yeah,
know, lending, and on paper being like, okay, I'm actually on paper like a, you know, a respectable
contribute a
citizen,
member of
versus
society.
this like this shadow citizen who has to explain like where all his money comes from, and explain why you have to put, 50% down on something, because, oh, the way my bank account works is, so yeah, that's
I've
the goal.
definitely always stayed in Bitcoin myself, but lately, just because of all the AI and robotics, I'm trying to transition some of my portfolio into maybe Figure or Tesla or Nvidia or whatever else. But I know Ponzi and some other people really like Hood as an investment these days. But it's weird going into the stock world because things move much slower.
Yeah, I've always, and this is, I guess I'm just kind of old school in this regard, but I've always treated like stock market and stocks as like, you get your big cap stocks and your stuff that is been around forever, and is, going to be around forever. Stuff, like, I don't know, it's a random, like a Caterpillar, for example, right? They build all the construction equipment for building stuff, because we're always going to build stuff. You get, oil and gas, like just like big cap, stocks that maybe you get some dividends on, and uh, I don't, it's weird. Like, I don't look at, and this is wrong. This is a wrong view, but like, I don't look at the stock market as like the place where I want to like experience like exponential growth with my
Right.
money. Right. I do that in
Yeah.
crypto.
Right.
It's a place where I want to like put it, and keep
Preservation.
it, Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Do you think you're going to be trading against mainly AI in the next few years, or do you think it's going to be the same old story with retail trying to do their best?
Uh, I don't think, I mean, yeah, maybe like one day you have just a bunch of like autonomous, agents that are just like trading and stuff. But I think it'll just be more like AI assisted, in the near future. Like if you look at stuff like prediction markets, I would imagine that Vegas is probably using so much AI when they're setting these lines now, because the amount of data that you can aggregate. I mean, imagine for sports betting, dude. Like, let's say you're trying to like set a line for a game, and you just have like AI that just like scrapes and crawls like every player's like social media, scrapes like everything that's going on with them, the weather, like everything, right? You could aggregate all of this information, and then apply it and set a line, And I think people are probably doing some of that stuff like manually, but
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, the algorithms are just going to become so much more sophisticated in that regard, where like there's not, obviously there's room for error because it's like life, but I think so much of that stuff's just going to get, dialed in, especially
Yeah,
with like prediction markets.
I know a lot of people in social media that run books and have been doing it for years. And my prediction of a year and a half ago was, hey, this is probably going to maybe not be as profitable a venture as it used to be. And so far, that's been the case from everything I've heard from some very close friends that have kind of gotten rinsed a bit in the book market. So casinos are still doing well for whatever ungodly reason people do online casino. I don't get it, but it must be the same rush as trading or something. But do you think that there's going to be some industry that comes out kind of like crypto or selling marijuana, selling mushrooms? Because I kind of feel like when you're in high school, they tell you to don't be a drug dealer, don't do all these things. But most of the people that got in that space end up pretty rich. Is there anything that you think is going to pop out in the next few years besides AI and robotics that might get someone to that place too?
Oh man, I have no idea, man. I think
Yeah.
I don't know. I think all eyes are definitely on AI, but um, I guess look at like recession proof businesses. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a handful of them, right?
Mhm.
Like rehabs, rehabs are
Yeah.
recession proof.
Medical. Yeah.
Yeah, medical, elderly care, like things that never change. You would consider recession proof. But as far as like a giant like emerging trend, um, I think there's gonna be a lot of really cool stuff that AI enables, and augments. I think we're not far at all from having agents basically improve and assist our lives drastically, like especially with like voice to text. Like let's say you want to buy a meme coin while you're driving, or something like that. You pick up your phone, whatever, hit the agent app, call your agent, and just you say, hey, buy this much of this, and that voice command will convert to text, which will convert to a command, and then the agent, you have some parameters around, and it'll execute for you, and I think that kind of stuff. I use meme coin as an example, but that kind of stuff you'll see probably everywhere, right? Buy me some groceries, order me the medicine. Like you'll get a reminder from this pharmacy that your medicine's ready. Like all of this stuff can already be automated.
Yep.
So I think being able to do it with your voice is a natural progression, to that, where you basically just give it a voice command, and then it already has the
We're on
the
Skynet.
rails, to execute. I mean, just talking about AI and like where I, he asked me where I think it's going and stuff, and I just improving everyday tasks and executing everyday tasks is definitely a natural progression next.
Yeah.
So I was asking Pwnlord as well, but are you in any stocks? Do you allocate some of your portfolio to that, or what is your position there?
I trade stocks at a different basis of how I trade crypto, because stocks, there's a lot of opportunity, but I can't be everywhere at once. So I really just rebalance the stock portfolio on like a monthly, quarterly basis. And then when the market is super insane, like it has been the last few, I'll trade options. Stocks positioning wise, I don't really have a conviction on where we go from here in terms of indices and such. So I mean, there's a massive correlation with crypto. So it's hard to be bullish crypto and not be bullish stocks at the moment. You kind of have to pick and choose one side in theory. I still think there's a lot of uncertainty with the tariffs and global positioning. And one of my lead indicators, which is quite obvious, is how are the legends positioned? And unfortunately, the legends are still positioned cash. Like if you look at Berkshire's $300 billion in cash, they haven't begun deploying. So, those can be leading lagging indicators. They could be late. That's fine. They can afford to be late. But as of now, they're still kind of flat. And a lot of the big guys are still flat. And the market's still kind of reflecting that way. So I don't know. I love stocks on a long-term basis. So in other words, I'm always buying stocks. It's just like the kingmaker trade on a 20-year basis. Can't really lose if you look at the indices. A few stocks that I'm currently bullish on are, we talked about this yesterday, Robinhood. I don't think people are done gambling. And when I mean gambling, I mean speculating on a trading investing is like one of the largest positions that kids our age are trying to get into. Robinhood is the best place to do it, and they're going to continue to eat market share as they add crypto. I like Coinbase still. I think if you're bullish crypto, you have to inherently be bullish Coinbase until there's been a replacement for the platform, which there hasn't been. It's the home base for people trying to onboard to crypto. I like Palantir if you're bullish on AI and the U.S. government being in everybody's devices. You kind of have to be bullish Palantir. They're in bed with the government, and they're going to inflate that as high as they can. I like what else? Baba, massive Alibaba guy. Same situation, I think, with resolution from tariffs. Alibaba trades back at the highs, maybe 300 where it once was. So that gives us a nice almost 2.8x. Outside of that, I'm not like in the stock trenches trading biotech and shit. That would divulge way too much of my time.
So where's mainly your time in just a few coins in crypto or just all over the place?
Trading perps has been like the majority of my time. Trading perpetuals or in the trenches.
When you make like a high conviction play, do you like consult with any of your mentors
absolutely.
or friends before you make that decision? Or
it's been it's a double-sided blade because I've been in a scenario where I'm like 100% adamant on my trade, and then I took it up with someone who's sharper than me, and they were like, "Oh, that's a really stupid trade," and I was like, "Oh, then why am I considering this trade if this guy who's way richer than me and way sharper than me is telling me it's a good trade?" Right. And then I'm right and they're wrong, So when I'm uber high conviction, it's like I'll run it by people just to get opinions, but I'm taking that trade like I'm certain of it. Yesterday was like the ETH example. I was pretty high conviction that something weird was happening, low time frame on ETH, so I longed and I ran it by a few people. I was like, "Yo, I think ETH is going to do something weird in the next like hour." And Rook was like, "Oh yeah, maybe, I don't know." And like the rest of my group chats were like, "Oh," they just kind of ignored it. So I was like, "All right, well, no one has a genuine opinion, so I'm balls to the wall on this trade," and it worked out. And that's happened a few times over time.
So you're getting more and more conviction for yourself before asking other people, I guess.
Yeah, I used to rely on everybody else's opinion, and then I realized that like just because they're richer than me doesn't mean that they're significantly sharper than me in a specific position. So I have to end up trusting myself. But like Pwn is my on-chain quant for sure. Like if I need conviction analysis on an on-chain play, it's running by him for sure. I liked KTA.
Lately it's been tough, dude. It's I don't have a read on anything other than like I was on the wrong part of the totem pole, right? When the information was given to me, because like that's just how it is right now. As everything's like I don't know, insider FNF shit for the most part. But I like to think I'm pretty good at identifying like big spots. I've crushed some really big trades from like essentially launch to
dude, the goat trade,
finish.
the
But
day
right now it's been horrible.
with the day you made that goat trade, you were so convicted, and like everybody else thought they were late. I think it ran to like 10 or 11 mil, and you're like, this is such a massive spot, and you kept saying it. You're like, this is such a massive spot. Like, you guys don't realize how massive of a spot that was, and that's the only reason I bought back was because of how convicted you were. I was like, well, he's fucking sharp, So that was one of those spots where, like, gotta take the chance.
I had a lot of friends who were like in similar positions, who had like sold or whatever, and I was like, dude, please. I was like, buy back, please buy back. Like, I don't need. I was like, I do not need the exit liquidity on this. Like, I know I am not wrong about this. I mean, obviously, I was wrong later. Like, up around a bill, I was wrong. But yeah, dude, like, in that sweet spot, I was just like, please buy back, and like some of them did buy back, and they were like, dude, thank you. Like one of my friends in Tempo sent me like a bunch of bottles of wine,
That's sick.
Thank you.
Same thing with the Trump trade. You did the same exact thing with the Trump trade. Everyone was like, oh, we're late, it's $1 billion, it's $2 billion, whatever. I was going to bed that night, you're like, jam spot. You're like, this is such an obvious jam spot.
I was at a it's funny because the Trump news today, but yeah, dude, I was out of town. Like, I was out of town at someone's engagement party, and I started seeing notifications in my group chats that like maybe it's real, maybe it's not real, but this Trump coin is like ripping. It would think it was at like 900 mil or something like that. And dude, I'm like emptying like every Trojan wallet that I had on my phone. Like, I'm just like nuke everything, buy. Like, I'm just everything. And then at that point, I think I had only gotten maybe like 300K into the trade, and so like I'm sitting there, I'm kind of like staring at my phone, and like fiance can tell, that something's up. She's like, "Do you need to like go?" And I was like, "Yeah." So like I stood up, and I was like, "Listen, everyone, like, you know what I do for a living?" I was like, I was like, Trump. I was like, Trump just launched a meme coin. I was like, it might be real, it might not be, but I gotta go. And so like, dude, I think like the most loser, thing you could say. I got up, I ran out of there, grabbed an Uber. So we were out of town, dude. And fortunately, I had my Trezor with me in the hotel room, dude. So like, I just grabbed an Uber, jetted back to the hotel. I think at that point it was trading at like 7 or 8 bill. And I just started ripping into it. And then the next day it was, trading at like, what was it, like 60
20
or?
Oh yeah, dude, it hit $79, which
bro,
was $80 billion.
Yeah, and that was one of those ones where like, you don't get opportunities like that. And I think being able to identify that this is like, is it scary, dude? Like it's scary to it's scary to fire huge size at something, anytime. Anytime it's scary, and especially when it's like run up so much. But like, that's one of those times where it's just like now or never, That was a crazy trade.
I was at a wedding, same situation. I had 25K available to fire, and I got in at like 700 mil. And then by the time I got home from the wedding, like 4 hours later, I think it was at like 16 bill. And I was like, fuck, this is such a weird spot. Like, I missed it with size, but I'm still up. Like, I don't know. I was up like 400 grand or something. And I was like, oh man, like, do I just go to bed and round trip it, or do I hold it? It was weird. I didn't want to add there.
Well, yeah, it was like uncharted territory. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
For something to literally, to go from where it opened to that high, like in a 24-hour period, it was like,
yeah,
rules are kind of out the window,
Yeah, you kind of have these like guideline rules that you have in your head when making trades, and that kind of just like shattered the regulation of what you anticipate for a trade. It just like, GOAT was the first one to like rattle my boots, where it was like, because I never hit BOEM, or I never hit like any of those really large coins, that did billion overnight type shit. I think there were 1 or 2 in the past, and then GOAT came around.
Yeah, it was like BOEM and Slurf, I think.
Slurf, yeah. And then GOAT came around and really rattled me because I caught it. And then when Trump came around, I was just like, wow.
Well, Trump was so much easier of a trade, bro, because
Yeah.
Trump, it happened. Well, it was easy if you're in it. If you were sidelined, it was horrible. And I think if you were sidelined, like you probably gave back almost all your money on the next couple ones that came out, like Melania, and then just random coins. It was horrible, dude. Like it was which should have been like the biggest liquidity event on chain ever. Turned into like this horrible thing that just extracted money like from everyone, because Melania, and then you had Libra, and you had a handful, of other things that just all happened back to back, where like they were just traps for anyone that didn't get Trump, really.
And it seemed like during that time, a lot of people were putting major size in a lot of these coins, and then kind of round tripped a bit. I think, not to bring it up, Ponzi, but I think you made like 8 figures on something, and then round trip about 8
January was my best month of all time, and like by multiples, like I pretty much almost cleared 8 figures in like a month. And then February, I just like, it was right after Melania. I was just like, I had all this liquidity, and I was just pressing every spot possible with such size, and it bit me so hard. It bit me so hard.
And how do you manage that? How do you manage? Go ahead, but how do you manage liquidity, Ponzi? What do you?
Well, obviously, I didn't manage it correctly there. But what I do every time I have an insane day, like it's been kind of the same thing I've adopted over the last 12 months. It's like anytime, like today specifically, I had a really incredible day. Like a high 6-figure day. The first thing I do at that euphoric feeling is withdraw collateral. It's not even that I like take profit on the positions, but I withdraw collateral as a reminder now that I was euphoric. I now have less of a buffer for a drawdown, so I'm more aggressive when it comes time to cut the position. And these days come far and few, so you have to pay yourself. So like I did that with the Trump trade. I immediately put like 7 figures in the bank. It was like, that was insane. But I left the majority of it in the market so I could keep pressing. Because in a spot like that, when you're hot, it's like gambling too. You press, right? So like I was hot as fuck, and I was like, wow, I got to press. If I made 7 million, I can make 20, right? It was like the same thought process. So when you go for that parlay and being hot, you got to be able to also put money away on the side at the same time to just say, hey, if this press doesn't work out, you can't really be super upset.
And do you have like a number, a percentage you put aside these days, or what's the discipline there?
I have a number that I put aside every month, whether I do good or whether I do bad or I do well. I have fixed expenses now that I have real estate, and I have a lifestyle that I like, and I have a corporate entity that pays my personal, and that corporate entity bank account has to have reserves to pay me for 2 or 3 years without me making a dollar. And so for that corporate bank account to have money in it, I need to withdraw from crypto. So whether I do well or not, there's money leaving the industry of crypto and going back into that account. And then obviously when I have an incredible day like today, then I just bonus commission for myself for doing so well.
What'd you hit today?
A good number for me for the past few months, but not a million yet.
What coins maybe?
Yeah.
The biggest trade was ETH Sol. Trump was pretty good. I'm still holding. I just started putting on positions on Bonk, Aave, Ina, Maker. Bonk, I started sizing in already. And then the DeFi space, I think that if ETH runs, then the whole DeFi space is going to run. And I still believe that there's like stable coin regulation bills that are coming around the corner, and ETH staking, which was, inevitably going to be approved. And when those headlines hit, this whole DeFi position that I've put on will probably run 50% in like 48 hours. And when it does run it, I'll have been positioned for it. So, but the 3 like large tickers that I made money on today were ETH, Sol, and Trump.
Do you think ETH's going to make a comeback, or do you think it's down only? What's going on with that coin?
I think it's in an interesting spot, being down 67% from the highs and being the most hated token. I'm like, I have this gut feeling and an intuition feeling that the ETH staking approval is going to come out of nowhere in the next 4 months. And ETH is going to do the same thing it did on the ETF day. And that's when I had like one of my best days ever, where it just, teleports. Oh shit! I was supposed to send a message to this guy. I don't think ETH is absolutely dead. It may not be the best trade to put on at all times anymore, where it was at one point. But everything comes around and goes around, so I think that it'll come back around for sure. There'll be another exciting point.
Do you think hype is a better trade than now?
Yeah, I think hype is a much better trade than ETH. We have a lot of variables in demand for hype. One of those being, you have that perpetual buyback Ponzi that really works. You have a derivatives exchange, which has no venture exposure to be dumped by, the big guys. You have, and as long as hype maintains a good product, I think it's a good trade.
Yeah. How do you manage life in crypto? Like, will the
That's the
psychology
really hardest
roll,
part.
the highs and lows? What do you do?
I'm really thankful to have a significant other that understands everything that I've been through, and I didn't get to know her after I made money. I got to know her before I made money, so she got to witness, the highs and lows and the goods and the bads, and just she accepted that. So when I have long nights, she knows what they look like, and when I have days where I'm doing really poorly and I feel like shit, she knows how to make me feel better. So significant other is really like the managing aspect of the stress and the sweat but you got to be able to like really manage the cortisol when it comes to a space like this, because the dopamine dumps from making $1 million or losing $1 million, they work both ways, and they'll drain you, and at some point like you'll just be itching. And I'm sure you both relate to this immensely. At some point you're like, holy shit, nothing does it for me anymore. Like
Yeah,
the
I feel
money's
nothing.
cool. Yeah, but like,
Bro,
man.
that's like when I made like $1 million on Shuffle.
Yeah,
dude, I was like, dude, I think I might have pushed the limits of like what my dopamine receptors can handle.
I forgot about that little
think-
triage you went on.
Bro, I think I'm about this close from like needing to go to, what is it, the most dangerous game, like,
That was the worst thing that ever happened.
Yeah, for those of you
That
who have
wasn't
no
great.
context here, Pwnlord was legitimately like swinging $1 million a day on Shuffle, just gambling, like not even like trying to farm the airdrop. Really, it wasn't just gambling, but the goal was to farm the airdrop. But obviously, you get a good excitement out of gambling, and he was fucking hitting slots for $1 million, $250,000, just like consistently swinging. And he would post a screenshot every few minutes, and I was just like, I want to gamble. Like, wow.
Oh yeah, I remember that day I hit a slot machine for like 5K, and I was like, I don't even want to post this in the group chat. Like,
Yeah, dude.
Rob's
in for fucking the swings on this show. And the fact that you can just gamble from your home now is crazy. Like we used to have to go to the casino, and now you can just like clock in and sweat $1 million like it's nothing.
It's not nearly as fun though.
Yeah, it's so easy to click
It's
a
not
button.
nearly
It's
as
like,
fun. Like
it's not.
I prefer going to the casino and like
100%. It hurts more to lose
cards,
10 grand at the casino than it hurts to lose 100 grand online.
Well, yeah,
I agree.
definitely. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe not if you're on like it's
So
not a good thing. But
have you like, so what keeps you like steady? Your schedule? You work out? You like train? Like have a certain time of day you do trading? Like
Unfortunately, I don't have a certain time of the day I do trading. I work 24/7, which is ironic because when I entered the space, I thought I'd be free, and except now I'm a real slave. I legit work 24/7. Like the moment my eyes open, if I'm rolling over at 3 a.m., I check my phone as if I'm in a position. If I'm on a call, or if I'm at work, or if I'm at dinner with my wife and something's happening, I have to be attentive to what's going on. So the management of time in trading is kind of all in until I get to the point where I think I can stop trading. And to me, that's, I got a 5x, 10x, maybe my net worth to get there and not be full all in. So, which is funny because at one point it was like, oh, once I hit 7 figures, I'll retire. And then it's like, oh, once I hit 8 figures, I'll retire. And then you're like, when do you stop? I actually had dinner with.
Yeah, I think that's what everyone struggles with. You say you want to hit this number, then you're good, and then you hit that number, you're like, well, what about this number? It's like, when do I exit?
When do you step away, right? So I think the most important thing as a trader is to like actually touch grass. And there can be like days on end where you don't even realize the days are passing because you're like, like when the trenches were hot, like you could sit at the computer for 4 days in a row and not realize how much time had passed and that you hadn't moved your legs, you lost or gained weight. So
Dude,
it's
I'll I'll go out to the mailbox and I'm like, dude, this might be the first time in like 3 days that like sunlight has like hit my skin directly, man.
yeah, and it's important because that kind of shit will fuck with your psyche, and you got to go outside and touch grass or go to the gym and sweat. One of my biggest things was the sauna. Like the sauna would return my cardiovascular health to help me
Honestly,
realize.
the gym has been the single, my entire life, like I've been in the gym, powerlifting, strongman, like whatever
Yeah,
I used to do, but like it's honestly like the number one thing that like kind of keeps me somewhat grounded, I guess, because it's like dude, when you're doing this and it's a 20, you get it, it's a 24/7 market, like dude, it's really hard to maintain discipline. It's like really hard to
yeah,
like to stay disciplined. And so just the act of like, getting in my car and going to the gym, I have a trainer, so like I'm accountable, to him, because in our lives there's not really a whole lot of people that like we're super accountable to,
super.
so it's like it's been like really the number one thing that has helped me maintain some sort of discipline,
Yeah.
in this.
And you end up losing, like, you lose
Yeah,
concept of what money is worth, right? Like, you swing $1 million in both directions, then when you go to to pay the $1,000 bill, it's just like, oh, that was like funding on my position earlier, like, and then you have to have somebody who like is like, yo, like that's like the other day, like it got to a point where I was parking, and this is super stuck up. Like this is a really waspy thing to do, but I was parking and I didn't want to spend the extra 6 minutes at the parking meter, with the laggy UI that doesn't work, and you got to click the button 10 times and put in your license plate. I was like, I'll take the $35 fine. That's worth more than me spending the 6 minutes trying to figure out that the machine is not going to accept my credit card. And it's like a super
Well,
waspy thing to do. It's just like
I think
not
no, dude.
good.
Look, I've had this conversation, and I think like we can have this conversation because we similar thing. But you get to a point where you're just like you're putting a price on your time and your
Yeah.
comfort, and considering this like miserable cursed like lifestyle that we live, that when you have an opportunity to choose like comfort over like discomfort, like I'm gonna pay for the comfort,
That's true.
even if it makes no sense to fly like first class domestic or something like that. Like dude, I don't want to spend 2+ hours like in the middle seat with like fighting for armrests, like
That's a
I'm
really
gonna
good point.
buy the first class ticket because that like I've earned that. It's not so much about like does this like financially make sense? It's more like this is just where I'm at right
I
now.
haven't I haven't justified that to like Linz will put me in my place where like, like I ordered something on Amazon for $400 and it didn't end up working. And I didn't want to return it. I didn't want to drive to fucking Whole Foods and ship it out. So I was like, oh, just throw it away. And Linz like, that's $400. Like, that's a lot of money. You don't just fucking chalk it up because you don't want to drive to Whole Foods. I was like, well, I deal with now that you say that, I deal with enough stress every single day that like that extra 15 minutes is just enough stress
Yeah.
for that I don't need to compound
Yeah.
onto. So I'll pay the
Yeah, bro.
$400 to not deal with that.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, for right or wrong, that's how that's how I treat it. Maybe if I had like an actual like structured like, hey, look, I have to unplug at this time. This is like what my, then maybe it's a little different, but like
Yeah. I looked
I
at
do the same
something.
thing, bro.
I know that Eric did something similar, but I actually found a place in Switzerland that I want to go to. It's like a 7-day detox retreat where they like, they do a bunch of tests on your body, figure out what you're lacking or whatever. And then for 7 days, you eat their diet. And I want to do that and just not bring a phone and try to do 7 days without a phone. I've never done it. If you think about it, like my entire childhood growing up, like I've always been plugged in. Like I wonder how my brain would feel after 7 days of fully unplugging.
Bro, I spent my entire my entire 20s in facilities that did not let you have have phones or
that's true.
electronics, man. I'm no stranger to that. I always see those like tweets and stuff. They're like, could you go without your phone for 30 days for $1 million? I'm like, motherfucker, I used to pay to do that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, man.
I think crypto in general is just managing like addiction and then like discipline. So it's like, I think the WeTard community in general, like we've done some pretty wild degenerate shit over the years. And I think we're getting to the, you know, the crypto age or whatever you want to call it, where we've realized that the partying, the clubs, all the other extracurricular activities that you can think of were not the way. But it was more keeping a structure, finding a good girl, finding, you know, like that balance is what keeps us most happy. And so I think that's important to know that you might see the cars and the clubs and all the other stuff, but that's really, you know, it's fleeting. It's more fleeting than long lasting.
Look,
stuff.
I like my car, but
I
all
love cars.
the club shit, man. Yeah, I don't do that anymore, man. Like people come in town and visit, and I get it. Like they're in town, they want to party and stuff, but dude, it's just not fun for me anymore.
I'm
like
totally
I
with
don't.
you.
I'm at a table where I can't hear what anyone's saying. Someone's screaming in my ear. They're
There's
grinding their
nothing
teeth
enjoyable.
off,
I
trying
can't
to
believe we did
talk to
that.
me about some
We
shit
did that
I do
every
not care
weekend,
about.
bro. We used to
Yeah.
just fight to do that.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
gross.
It's like it's just corny, dude. And I think it's just because it's probably because we did it a lot, but also like I think just the older I've gotten, like I just want. It sounds like so cheesy, but like I'd rather just have like do what I want to do, and have like authentic experiences with people rather than like have a bunch of hyenas, asking me questions that they don't care about the answers. I don't care about talking to them. I don't want to do any of these things.
Yeah.
I'd rather just like do what I want to do, and that's a really nice freedom, that we have today, just to do what we want to do.
Yeah, to me, that's where spending extra money on. Like I'm spending a lot more money on, a plunge sauna or a cold dip or, cryotherapy or things that really kind of make me feel better than going out and late nights and doing some of the dumb stuff that I'm used to doing. As Rob hits his vape.
Bro, don't even get on me about the vape. I get enough of that shit everywhere else in my life. Listen, I know it's terrible for you. Okay,
you can give me plenty of shit.
Dude,
trust me, I'll shut up.
No, man. Look, this big vapes got me right where they want me.
Okay? Big vapes got him.
Yeah, big vapes got me. I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh, like where is it? Where is it? And it is what it is. It's really hard to quit these things.
Yeah, it is, dude.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming on, and we're trying to figure out the structure of this. But Ponzi, love having you whenever you want to come on, and I think it's fun to get on for an hour a week and talk about the markets, talk about life, and I think it's helpful for some of the traders out there and some of the guys that are in the space to get everyone's different perspective.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for having me. It's always refreshing to just touch up on the things that you do day to day. You don't really focalize it with the people around you often. So
Ponzi, I don't know if you're reading the comments here on the restream. Someone had a question for you right before you sign off. They said, does Ponzi have a system or plan he follows when entering perps?
Every trade is really different, in my opinion. I have a bait. Like as of recently, I should have been doing this much earlier, but my fiance really made me put it in my system. It's if your friend came up to you and showed you the trade you were about to take and asked you for his advice, what would you say? Because very often you can get super FOMO or like just fire for no reason, and that's normally one of my most damaging traits. Is like I'll pull up a chart and be like, oh, I should enter 5% lower. Fuck it, I'll enter here. If I was a friend of mine and approached me and said like, yo, I'm just gonna fire here instead of waiting for that entry, well, how would you respond? And naturally be like, wait for the entry. You're gonna draw down for no reason. If the trade doesn't work out, then you ended up inducing more risk. I think that is really the only structure system I have. Because of course every entry can be different. Like when I'm scalping, for example, today earlier when ETH dipped to 1760, I anticipated 1730. So naturally my structure would have said wait till 1730 as an entry for the hourly trend. But I was watching Bitcoin at the same time and things shifted. I was watching stocks. everything kind of aligned. Maybe I do have a system/plan, but it's so embedded in my subconscious after being in the market for so many years that like it kind of unfolds naturally. I think the other part of my system is like, don't be afraid to cut losses and re-enter. If I eat a drawdown for a long time, it's probably the wrong trade to have taken. So in terms of just like a general system plan, no. But I have guidelines that I've interpreted over the last few years of trial and error that have helped me develop a sense of structure. If that makes any sense.
I actually like that answer. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
Use that. Yeah. I never thought of it like
Dude,
that.
I mean, at the end of the day, Linz would always be like, why did you enter that trade? Like, she doesn't even know what she's asking, but she'd be like, why did you enter that trade? And I was like, well, I just wanted to get ahead of it in case it ran away from me. And she's like, if your friend had walked up to you and said, should I enter this trade here? What would you have said? I was like, well, I would tell him to wait, and then I was like, wait, maybe I should listen to my own advice then. So I always ask myself, like, is this the spot to fire? If my best friend came up to me and said, I'm about to fire, what do you think? And I respond with wait, then I'm going to wait.
Yeah, I got to get better at that.
I'll give one piece of advice as someone that doesn't trade very often. Throughout all the years in our group chat, anytime someone posts their P&L,
that's a really good one.
Yeah, so especially keyboard market. I now only post the P&L after I sell. So yeah, and but it won't be like, oh, I took the screenshot, so I have to sell. I'm usually just like sell and then take this, take the screenshot.
That's fucking hilarious.
Did you tell him about the meme last time? I forget that where you had a 400K bag and then you posted it on the chat and then someone dumped it on you.
Oh, dude, I know exactly who dumped on me too, man. That's my friend of mine. Like
they should chop it with
what
you.
What coin was it?
No, bro. So this was like literally right after Trump. So people were just money like wasn't real. That's
the most. The 10 days after Trump, money was not real. Was not real. That's the best way to put that.
It wasn't. Like, dude, I was on cloud 9 until Melania dropped. So, but anyway, yeah. Like, I was just looking. Someone pinged me, and they were like, "Hey, dude, I think you might be like the top holder of this coin." And like a bunch of people are like, I guess, caballed it. They bought the lows and like they just spiked it. And I was like, oh. And so like I went. I was like at a dude. I was actually at a. I was at a derby. This is okay. Keep in mind, this is like hours before Melania dropped. So we're in this tight little window of like, life is awesome. We're all gonna make it. Trump coin, infinite liquidity. And then
it's Tulum all over again.
Oh, this was like, this will never be. I'm pretty confident like that event will never be topped. But who knows? At least not like in meme coins. But anyway, yeah. So we're in this tight window of like, we're all gonna make it. It's over, right? Melania, it's over. Trump, we're all gonna make it. And this small little window, somebody pings me and they're like, "Hey, I think you're the top holder of this coin." And like, I open up my wallet. I wasn't the top holder. I was like top 3, and I've been holding it for like 6 months or something. And it was worth like 300K or something like that. And I was just like, oh, it could go higher. and then I'm like, oh my god, dude! It's like I screenshot like the balance, and I sent it to a tiny group, bro, like a group with maybe like 10 people in it, and I sent it in the group, and dude, like the biggest like red candle you've ever seen just drops, and I'm like, dude, you guys are fucking scumbags. Like one of you sent this screenshot to like a bunch of groups because like within like 10 seconds, someone unloaded. And so I started clipping and I got like maybe 50K out, but I was just like, man, I should have just nuked that. I got cocky, I took the picture and I was like, oh, look, 300K just appeared, and then of course somebody was like, oh my god, if you own this coin, get out, dude. Like if you own it, get out. He has like 300K worth of it because the LP had like maybe 120K in it. So
that's
anyway,
epic,
that's the story.
That's epic.
Amazing, guys. So we'll do this again. I got Luca nets in a couple weeks, and I think maybe keyboard next week. So if you guys want to hop on, we'll do that. Luca's in person, so.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
We'll
I might want to hop on for keyboard. I got some pressing questions I've been meaning to ask him for a long time.
Oh, we would love to ask keyboard a lot of questions. Whether he answers them is another issue.
We
all right, guys. I appreciate it. Love you all.
All right, see you later.
Love you guys. Ciao.
Yeah.